Welcome to the Unrefined Project. My name is Travis. This is my buddy David. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Well, not bad, not bad. How about yourself?
Aside from a little hangover from yesterday, I'm doing all right.
A little wild last night?
Yeah.
That's all right. That's what the weekend's for.
Yep.
We also have the puppy prodigy, a.k.a. Wolf of Wall Street, Mr. Peabody on the boards this week. How are you, Mr. P?
Oh, doing good.
Doing good.
Any exciting news from the weekend?
Good week. Yeah. Saw some friends I haven't seen in a while. Good friends. So that was well needed. That was pretty fun.
Right on.
All right.
What else you got better than friends?
Well, not much these days.
So.
All right. So we are going to do a little bit of a rundown. I'm going to swing this over to Dave here to kind of get you guys up to speed.
I got some feedback from a buddy of mine. Said, hey, sometimes you get a little lost in what we're talking about. So I'd like to run down the show a new way. We'll go ahead and give you the topics we're going to be talking about during the week, and start off with, obviously, we're going to jump a little bit on that Will Smith, Chris Rock bandwagon. Unfortunately, we're a week late. Let's see. After that, we're going to go ahead and hit some news. All right, some news that's been bothering me. How Biden is planning on releasing about 1 million barrels a day from the strategic reserve, and that comes straight from Bloomberg. We'll run through that with some stats on that, and is it really going to help? Next, we'll go through the House-approved bill for legalizing pot. Will it go through? Will it not? Who knows?
Dun, dun.
After that, we're going to run into the Shanghai COVID lockdowns again. That should be pretty interesting. And we'll go through some new California laws that may or may not be being proposed or passed. And then finally, for the day, we're going to shoot up to food prices going up at levels not seen in decades. And that comes from NPR. So before we get started, we'd like to throw a new little segment in here. It is called Taste of the Week. I don't know, anybody that's watched the show knows that every week we have a new bottle of usually whiskey. It may be different some weeks. Back here, we're going to try things we've never tried before. This week we've got Nika Days. It is a Japanese whiskey. It says smooth and delicate. So we'll go ahead and give that a try, see how that goes. And then here's the bottle right here. That's what it looks like. We'll let you know what we think, if it's worth the money or not. I'm going to go ahead and pour some glasses right now.
Yeah, so we're going to get into this a little bit. We differentiate a little bit on what we like to get down on, but we both enjoy whiskey. I've been taking a little bit of a hiatus from drinking, actually. I was on vacation.
Not today.
I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, out of town, and we were chilling in a place for a couple of days. We were going to be there, and a buddy of mine brought a bottle back, and I drank a little more than I should have, and that happens from time to time. But it was a little bit of an entanglement. Some people,
what's screwy? You know what I noticed? The older we've getting, or the older I get, the worse it is the next day.
Oh yeah, no, it was a
man. I remember bouncing back in the 20s. You could drink all night. Next day, go to work at 6 a.m.
No,
now it's not happening now. Not at all.
I was basically a dead person the entire next day. I'm sorry, wife, for that. But anyway, we're back and we're trying a little bit of.
All right, let's give this a try. Cheers.
So
anybody at home want to try it with us? Grab a bottle, drink.
High and healthy.
It's a lot of dead space in the air right there. Tastes more like a scotch. That's pretty good.
Dead space? What do you mean?
Nobody was talking. We were drinking.
Oh,
we could have done our little ASMR right there.
Yeah, right.
I
don't know.
It's got a little kick to it.
Yeah, finish is nice.
It's pretty scotch-like. It's not bad. If you like scotch, a little bit of smoke, not a bad one to go with.
Got a little saturation there in the end. A little burn.
Right. I'd buy it again.
All right.
For sure. It'd be good to go with a nice heavyweight cigar on that one, actually.
Yeah, well, miss me with that. But all right, so yeah, the problem with that little entanglement was we actually had another entanglement this weekend. So as soon as we finished our last podcast, Weapons of Mass Distraction, the world dropped a great example right into our laps, mere hours after we finished. I really don't want to spend a lot of time on this. However, we have some differing opinions on what and why. So we're going to talk about our boy Will here for just a moment, and I think we can just probably roll into the first clip.
Yeah, let's talk about it first. I say we talk about it first.
Okay.
So there was news that came out that says he has resigned from the academy. They were going to take action against him. What does that really mean for him? Nothing, right? I mean, he still gets to act in movies. He still gets to receive Academy Awards. The only difference is he can't vote on the he can't vote on the Oscars anymore. That's really the only thing he lost, other than his dignity and any self-respect.
Yeah.
If there was any left after his wife, and destroyed him.
I remember having someone send it to me, and it was like, I sent it to my wife, and I just said, this is exactly what Hollywood needed right now.
Yeah, Oscars were in the tank.
It's just so convenient for
it was. At
ratings
first
to be down, and
at first you watch it and you're like, that looks like a wrestling move. Like, it was a little fake looking, but then when he goes and sits down, that's real emotion coming out of him. When he's screaming, when he's screaming out of him. I know they lie for a living, but I believe that was real emotion coming out of that guy's mouth. He was pissed, and I think he was pissed because I personally think he wanted to slap Jada, not Chris Rock.
Come on, man! Look,
he's embarrassed. His wife is destroyed him as a man. That's what I believe. I don't know their marriage. I know they have an open marriage. I know Jada's a little bit more open than Will would be.
She's been around a long time.
That would make anybody want to take some anger out, but he can't do it to her, right? I mean, he's not going to be the next OJ. Or is he? Who knows, right?
I don't know. Honestly, I think these marriages are strategic moves. I don't think that a lot of these relationships are based in actual love or
well, it could be one-sided for him, right? It could be he probably does love her. I'm assuming to stick around this long for that reason. She hasn't been in very many movies lately. She's not a great actress. What's in it for him?
Loved her in The Matrix.
For her, she gets everything out of it, right? You know what I mean? So my kid sent me a clip that I thought was hilarious. I don't know who made it. I thought it was hilarious. It's Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, and for anybody that can't listen, I'll give you a rundown after we play the clip. Go ahead.
Uh-oh, Richard.
That was pretty funny. All right, the rundown for audio listeners is it's when Will Smith walks up to Chris Rock to go smack him, and as soon as he hits him, they got some ragdoll effect that just throws Chris Rock across the room.
Yeah,
it's pretty
CGI.
fun. It's pretty funny. I'm sure you could find it on Google, on the old Google machine.
It's good CGI, but again, I think it's just so convenient to be talking about distractions, and then all of a sudden something like this falls in our lap. Okay, so not only do we have the fact that these guys are longtime Hollywood elites, they are well established in the community. They've been in Hollywood for a long time, right? Who's to say somebody didn't just call up a few people and you're like, hey, you're the only one who knows about this, but you need to do this. We need our ratings are trash, and we need to bring awareness to a certain medical condition.
Yeah, alopecia.
That's one of our people are suffering from, and we just so happen.
I'm bald too. I don't care.
You're not bald because of alopecia, though.
Prove it.
No, I'm not proving it.
You're not bald. Because
I'm bald in multiple places. I'm not proving it.
Okay, so I'm attempting.
Sorry, that was not for the kids.
I'm attempting to connect the dots here a little bit. Okay,
yeah.
So we'll just work with me here. So who was the largest sponsor?
Pfizer. What did they just come out with? They just came out with a new medication for alopecia. Yes, we know.
Come on, man.
It was pretty.
You're like, hey,
coincidental.
Hey, we need to make this look good. Will, you've been in a lot of action movies. You know how to throw a good-looking punch. You learned, what was the movie? What was I talking about?
I think they would have gone up to. I think they would have gone up to Jada because they know. Chris Rock knew what he was going to say. He didn't write that. A writer wrote that for him, right?
Allegedly,
he didn't write that, and allegedly he didn't know she had alopecia. But if they knew what was going on, they should have gone to Jada, not Will Smith, because she has the ability to get under the skin and crank those screws in, right?
Doubt.
So
I have so much doubt.
I don't know. That seemed like a lot of. I mean, I've seen him in movies. That's
These are seasoned, veterans in acting, dude.
It totally could be. I totally could be off the mark here.
And look at that slap, bro. Look at that slap. That's some pussy.
Either way, Chris Rock took it like a fucking champ.
He leaned into it.
He thought he was going to say something to him, probably. You know,
I don't know. All right, so we have one more small little thing on this that we're just gonna focus on the subject real quick.
Yeah.
Clip number 2.
Clip number 2.
We have, and I have not seen this.
This is an older clip from Will Smith from years ago.
The only reason that I wanted to throw this up because I've seen all the other stuff. But anyway, clip 2.
When I was 15 years old, my first girlfriend cheated on me.
Oh.
And I remember making a decision that nobody would ever cheat on me again. And the way I was going to do that is by being the biggest actor on earth.
Emotional damage.
Bro. I mean, come on.
Did it work?
Did he even mean that when he said it?
I don't know. Is an open marriage cheating? That's that fine line, right? You know?
I would say he was probably more heartfelt and serious.
So
I
do. But if it was real and it wasn't a staged event, I think he was more. I think he would have slapped Jada if that was the person up there, right? I don't think he was slapping Chris Rock. I think he was slapping the idea of a bad marriage, problems in his marriage. You know, whatever. That's their deal. But that's all the time I want to spend on this. It's been played out all week, right?
They're learning about the biolabs, and the Hunter Biden laptop's been verified. Quick, deploy the slap.
Yeah. You know what? It totally could be. I don't know. Stuff like this doesn't usually come out. Do we ever find out if it's real or not? Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. Depends on how many people are involved. Depends on who opens their mouth. Any whistleblowers. But
life is a stage.
It was. I can't believe we named the last episode "Weapons of Mass Distraction" when right after we released it, that happened.
It's good stuff. Keep bringing it on, world. We're ready for it.
I was greatly entertained all week.
Yeah. You know what? We got a bunch of good memes out of it. We got great memes.
And we also got a few other things. What else did we get out of that, Mr. Peabody?
Oh, it was so entertaining all week. I was so distracted that I totally forgot about gas prices.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about what's going on in Ukraine. I was more focused on Will Smith's PR.
There it is.
And their damage control when the real issue is going on in Ukraine with their damage control. But I just totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
That's how it works. It's nice.
All right. You guys ready to give that? I'm tired of it.
We'll put it to rest.
We've heard it all fucking week.
Put it to rest.
All right. So let's talk about what actually really is happening in the world this week. So according to Bloomberg, Biden is weighing a plan to release 1 million barrels of oil a day from the strategic reserve. Now, really, what does that mean?
What is a strategic reserve?
Strategic reserve, and I'll answer that. I'm sure you already know. Most people already know. It is in case shit hits the fan. We can produce our own gas, and we set aside so many barrels. However many barrels. I don't know what the number is. Trump did a good job at replacing that at record low costs during COVID when the price of barrels was pretty much down to almost nothing.
No, didn't it go negative?
It did. And at that point, they actually came out with a new law. Trump came out with a new law to try to keep everybody working. So they artificially raised the price of the barrels. I think it already ended in March or something like that of this last year.
So now, and this was futures on oil, right? Because it was essentially assumptions, an estimate of what they were going to use.
Yes, correct. And so what happens is they weren't using very many barrels of oil during COVID because nobody was driving, right? Nothing was happening, no flights, no cruise ships going out running
all the
diesel
non-essentials weren't filling.
Yeah, so they were gonna close. They were literally losing money at all of these refineries, so they changed it. They upped the price of the barrel at that point. This is like right after he filled their strategic reserve. Obviously, they upped the price of a barrel just to keep people working, right? Because it's quantity over quality, right? Or quantity over whatever you may call it, right? It's not really quality, but if you're only producing 10,000 barrels in a shop, and then all of a sudden nobody's buying those barrels, you're losing out on money. So how about we cut back, and now we're only producing 5,000 barrels, and we're selling them for the price we were before, or double the price before, which was it was a great idea at the time, right? And it already ended. That program ended, I think, in March of this year. But it had it was a weird little sunset to where it would drop off as production was needed, right? So, and this will take us back.
They assumed that it was going to ramp up from the current usage.
Yeah. So the way they wrote that plan was, okay, when we get back to normal, the prices will go back down to normal. But we artificially raised the price. That was a Trump policy. We artificially raised the price to keep everybody working, to keep these oil refineries and all that stuff afloat. If not, they'd go bankrupt, right?
Sure.
So, and that was after it went,
bailout?
after the yield went negative on it. It was kind of a, it's more like price fixing, right? It's more like, okay, we're going to raise our rates to this today, which is technically illegal. But the government can do whatever they want, apparently. But it was with Saudi Arabia. It was with all the other countries that are producing oil. We made a pact. Said, okay, until March of 22 or something like that, we'll do that.
Oh yeah, we have a graphic, right? Pick one.
Yeah. So pick one here. This is from EIA.gov, which is the U.S. Energy Information Administration. This actually shows barrel production of crude oil. We're not looking at the regular one, right? We're just talking crude oil here, which is 11.185 million barrels a day. That is what we produce. And then if you look, you can jump straight over to picture 2. Picture 2, that shows our daily annual consumption of millions of barrels from 1998 to 2020. All right. Now, if you notice, we're over 20 million barrels a day this is just the United States of consumption. This is from Statista.com. So if we're only making 11.1 million barrels a day, we're using, 20 million barrels a day. He plans on releasing 1 million barrels a day. What is that really going to do, right? We're still short 9 million barrels a day. So where do we get that from? Usually, I think 3% would come from Russia, would come from Saudi Arabia, from other countries. Now they're back on the table talking about going back to Venezuela, asking for oil, all this kind of stuff. Go on to pick 3, because that has a more updated consumption of oil for 2021. If you look at picture 3, let me pull that up here. That is. All right. So in 2021, the United States consumed an average of 19.78 million barrels of petroleum per day, right? So now take that with, okay, we're producing 11 million. And it hasn't changed. So from Obama era periods, we were producing 8 to 9 a day, 8 to 9 million. Trump came into office 2016, 2017. He was an oil-friendly president. People started, drilling. Oil production went up through the roof, right? We're up to 11, 12. At some points, we were up to 16 million barrels a day. We're almost energy independent for crude oil. I'm not talking about natural gas. That's a totally fracking and natural gas, totally different story. We're not even going to get into that today.
So we were still 4 million barrels short.
We were still 4 million barrels short
at the height of energy independence.
Yeah, and if you look at there's a graph on that. Actually, there's a government website. I forget the name of it. I'll have to look it up later.
Information will be in the comments.
Yeah, you could see that through Obama, 8 to 9, through Bush, then Obama, 8 to 9 million barrels a day. Trump, 11 to 12 million barrels a day. It steadily rose. Well, it started off at like 10 in 2016. It steadily rose to 12 million barrels a day, with some days being 16. It was a lot, right? And then through policies of Biden, the policies he came into office with are pretty scary for an oil company, right? Why are you going to drill if there's no money in it? Why are you going to drill if
he did something like on the first day?
Well, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which was bringing crude oil from Canada down to the Gulf of Mexico. The same amount of oil still getting traveled down. It's just getting traveled down on trains and trucks now, which is actually costing more energy to get down there than just a pipeline. The environmentalists will hate it, but
no, we have wind-powered locomotives.
Yeah, I wish we did.
And they can pull into stations and plug into charging stations that are.
I wish we did. That'd be kind of neat, right?
Because then we would need some batteries.
Yeah.
You need a lot of batteries for all that charging as well.
So as oil consumption goes, we'll get into the batteries right now. As oil consumption goes, the 1 million barrels a day, they plan on releasing it for, I think, 180 days if needed, which is 180 million barrels from our strategic reserve, which was actually a spot where we keep our oil just in case shit.
Okay, so a different way of looking at this is we don't produce enough ourselves
Correct.
to maintain our current amount of consumption.
Correct.
So we have to go elsewhere for X amount.
Yes.
Really what we're doing by releasing 1 million barrels a day from our strategic reserve is reducing the amount that we rely on other countries, but only by a sixth.
I don't know the exact numbers of what we have in our reserves, but say he releases all 180 million barrels. Now, are they replenishing that with barrels made here in the United States on a daily basis? Because if so, then that just cancels itself out, and that's pointless.
Or are they
it's just
replenishing it
him
at all?
placating to his base, saying, look, I'm being environmentally friendly. I'm trying to lower the gas prices for you guys. Because they know they're in deep shit with this gas price thing. And a lot of people will say, oh, the president's not in charge of gas prices. Well, there's a lot of speculation in the price of a barrel of gas. There really is.
Policies have consequences.
Policies have consequences, right? If we had kept that upward trajectory from 2016 till now, we would probably be producing enough to sustain ourselves because we would be drilling more. Those 9,000 land leases that they talked at, Jen Psaki talked about, why aren't they drilling? Well, because you haven't given them the permits. But
Psaki is one of the first of many rats to jump off of that sinking ship, by the way.
Yeah.
Just a little sidebar there. She's going
I don't know
to,
if she jumped off yet, did she?
MSNBC.
Did she?
Yeah, she's going to be a commentator.
They always go into commentating after that. Yeah. But so if they want to say, oh, it's not the president's fault. There's 9,000 new leases. You still need permits to drill, right? They still haven't released the permits. All 9,000 new leases were signed under the last administration.
Yes. And they're dragging their feet on releasing the permits, right?
Correct. And they also did some shady shit down in the Gulf of Mexico for offshore drilling recently, and they knew they weren't going to get approved because they didn't do the report on environmental damage. Whatever. They did that on purpose so the judge would strike it down and say, hey, you guys didn't do it correctly. You're not going to be able to get these new leases in the Gulf of Mexico for offshore drilling, which we need the oil. You want to make good batteries? You want to make good windmills, solar panels? Guess what you need? You need fuel.
Yeah.
You need energy. So,
I mean, and even if you start talking about batteries, even if you start talking about batteries, when it in comparison of gasoline engines, right? They always have the comparison and contrast between something like a Tesla and, a gas guzzling vehicle, right? But I never hear the argument of the amount of the carbon footprint that it took to produce the vehicle in the first place. I only hear about the carbon footprint that it's producing in its day-to-day usage with the end consumer, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
If you really want to start getting into...
Well, we get our lithium and cobalt from where? China.
Other places than here.
We get them from China,
Oh, right.
Middle East.
Okay, so just the logistics involved with getting all of that stuff over here. It's got to go on a container.
All right, Travis, listen. That's not us doing it. They're going to do it. We might as well use it, and we're being clean, right? We're clean.
Sacrificing our own potential ability to innovate and create and survive.
You just put your hands up like this, and you don't pay attention to what's going on over there. You just look at, we're doing good over here. That's all you got to do.
But it's like, it's just a garbage argument when politicians stand up and tell, people that are getting actively poorer to buy some car because it's a potential virtue signal.
Correct.
It's like, honestly,
a $60,000 car that's going to cost $20,000 every 10 years to replace the batteries. Yeah, tell them to do that. It's great. Save $80 in gas.
But where do those batteries come from? How much energy is...
I think we got a picture of how much energy is used on that.
We do pick four for batteries here. So this is something from Wall Street Silver. This is one of the really awesome entities that I follow on the interwebs here. But anyway, can you read that, David? Actually, I can't see that.
Yeah, it says, to manufacture each EV auto battery, you must process 25,000 pounds of brine for lithium. In this case, salt, right? Brine. 30,000 pounds of, ore for cobalt, 5,000 pounds of ore for the nickel, and 25,000 pounds of ore for copper. all told, you dig up 500,000 pounds of the Earth's crust for one battery. Now, that I will agree that's a little misleading because the 25,000 pounds of ore for copper, it gets placed back after it's done, right? They take the copper out and they place it back in there and stuff like that. So you're not really digging up. You dig up 500,000 pounds, but you have to put it back. Now, the problem is the energy used to dig up that 500,000 pounds of Earth's crust. That ain't battery powered.
It's not solar.
That's not solar powered. That's not
Those
wind
are
powered.
diesel engines that burn a lot.
Yeah, and
of
since
fuel.
it's mostly in different countries, they are going to have much less restrictions than we have here
On emissions.
on emissions. And
EPA doesn't even exist in China.
We've been lowering our emissions in the United States for years, decades now, like massively lowering it, and it's not gonna. EVs are not gonna lower the emissions, right? Solar, wind's not gonna lower the emissions because when they're not there and they're not working, what do we fall back on? Natural gas, right?
Or people still in China still cook like at least 2 or 3 meals a day on charcoal.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
as long as we put our hand up, we don't look over there. We're virtuous over here. Don't you
I just
worry.
don't
We're
understand
virtuous, right?
why anyone would choose virtue at your inability to potentially provide for your family. I mean, we're going to start talking about food shortages here in a little bit. We had a statement about that we'll get into a little bit later. But if these things are going to actually start happening, and we are seeing shortages of gas just for the trucking companies, that directly equates to less food inside of the grocery stores, which means less food for your family.
Absolutely. And then how our farms ran with big
Red
diesel
dye.
tractors.
Red dye diesel, it's a different price.
You know?
It comes out at a different place that you have to get,
And
specific for your
that's
vehicles.
oil usage, right? So if they want to play stupid games to try to say we're releasing this huge amount of oil every day, people need to see, okay, they're not releasing enough. What we need to do is we need to start drilling now. Those permits need to be pushed through. Those 9,000 land leases that have been approved under the last administration that are still approved. They need the permits now. They need to start drilling now. They need to know that the country has their back because we need to keep moving forward. Now, is it going to pollute a little bit more? I don't know. It might, but we're not going to get to zero emission outcome without at least using energy that we have on hand right now.
But does any of it matter if the rest of the world isn't going to play the game, right? Like the West, Europe, fucking.
Well, they
North
play the game, and
America.
look what happened to Germany, right? I mean, they played the game. Let's go. They closed all their nuclear plants. They went all solar and whatever, and now they're beholden to Russia for gas. And we all know how that's playing out. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
But if major powerhouses like China and India, for example, are not doing any of that shit.
No, they don't do
They're
it.
going to continue to not only crank out the same emissions and the same pollutants, but actually manufacture shit that's going to make their country better with their exportability and goods and services, right? Like we're sacrificing our ability to do that.
Yeah.
So we can pound our chest and say, how awesome we are, doing our part to save the
Correct.
environment.
You get your personalized plate on your Tesla, and you did your job. You did your thing. You're one of the good ones. We get it. I don't. I get that part of it. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous that I don't think people understand the severity of not producing energy. We haven't had a bad time yet, right? We haven't had that time where there was a fuel shortage since the 70s, right?
The oil embargo in the 70s.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, if it comes again, it comes again. You can't release the strategic reserve because if war happens tomorrow, and we don't have any gas from our strategic reserve because he was taking all the barrels of gas out of there, what do we do?
Yeah, but you can't really directly.
We rely on another country for that.
Yeah, and the regimes that we're relying on are more and more atrocious.
Yeah, it seems to be that a lot of oil countries are dictatorships.
Why?
For a reason, right? Because the West is we're going clean, right? We can produce oil. We're sitting on more oil and natural gas in this country than anywhere in the world.
We're not going clean. The politicians that are, running around telling everybody to, stop eating meat and to stop owning gasoline vehicles are flying their private jets to and from these fucking meetings in Davos and these meetings in Dubai.
Yep.
And burning, mega fuel. It's like,
and their answer is, well, somebody else is doing it too. That's always been their answer is, oh, well, I had to get here and somebody was going to do it, whether it was me or somebody else. That was always their excuse.
Though. That's like,
that's John Kerry's excuse most of the time, right? That guy's a screwball. All right. I'm tired of this oil crap. It's not getting better. This administration doesn't know what they're doing. I was
in Menlo Park on Friday, and it was $7.35 for premium.
Oh, I believe it. It
was like $6.60 for 87.
Mr. Peabody was driving up in Palo Alto the other day. You got a story there for us on that?
To give him I saw a couple at it was Redwood City in front of a gas station, and this lone couple holding up a sign. One sign saying "Gas prices too high?" ? And the other person was holding "Vote Republican." And I kind of want to give them a shout out for that. They were by themselves, doing a little protests.
Were they
on the street?
Were they like trying to get people registered, or?
I'm not sure.
I remember
I just drove by, came back, and then they were gone.
Wasn't that idea floated?
They tried getting people registered at gas stations.
That might have just been a joke,
2019 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That's what a bunch of newspapers came out with. I think that was right before the election. They were going to gas stations with the gas prices low, saying, "Hey, vote Republican, vote Republican."
Interesting.
I don't know if it was that big of a story, but obviously mainstream picked up on maybe one or two small stories, and they made it a big story. Like, look at what they're doing. This is wrong. They shouldn't be able to do this. When it was small potatoes, right?
Yeah,
small
I don't
potatoes.
know. I mean, it's too much of a blanket statement to be saying anyway, right? I mean, like, just because you're going to vote for Republican doesn't necessarily mean the gas prices are going to go down. I mean,
correct. You've got to have someone in there that has a little bit of logic with the way the oil companies work.
And they don't always vote the way that you think. We just had a vote on insulin to cap insulin. All the Republicans voted against it. We also just had a vote on in the House for medical marijuana. Right? Decriminalization of medical marijuana. Majority of Republicans voted against it.
Yeah, you had some cross the line. And then you're not going to get the 60-40 split in the House for that, right? It's not. We're going to go into that next. So, all right, ready to jump on the next one?
Yeah, I mean, that was basically it. It's already been voted on once.
So the House approved a bill legalizing marijuana. What needs to happen for it to be fully legalized? Where does it go from there? Yeah, federally, where does it go from there? It's not going to happen. We already know that.
The first step is to change the scheduling. That's the very first step. It's still cannabis is still considered a Schedule 4 narcotic with all the worst ones up there, heroin, etc. Right? So if you drop it down to a Schedule whatever the lowest one is, I might have it backwards. It's either Schedule 4 or Schedule 1. I forget what it is, but it's up there with the gnarly hardcore drugs, right? When caffeine.
Yeah, because they considered it a psychedelic years ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, it depends on how far you go back in the propaganda. You had your Reefer Madness push, which actually had a little bit more to do with hemp than it did with cannabis. But
yeah,
I mean, that's the first thing, because if you reduce the level of harshity or severity that it is, you can actually start doing studies on it. It's actually barred from any clinical studies and government-funded studies being...
And the schedule that it is. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right, so I think that's the first step. Normal, I was a big follower of Normal in my teenage years. That was one of some of my first magazines that I started reading about like weed and stuff. And they had a pretty detailed, plan as far as how to go about, decriminalizing it, and not only for medicinal but for recreational use federally. And that would definitely be we got a snorer over here. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but that would definitely be the first step. And then honestly, it's just like realize the ability to tax, right? I mean, you're the government. You love to tax people. You get tax revenue out of anybody everywhere you can possibly do that. Like, what are we missing here? The state of California, state of Colorado, among many others, have realized a huge tax revenue that they've been missing out on.
Yeah.
Plus the ability to kind of regulate it and control it. I mean, Oregon, for example, is state-run liquor, right? So the OLCC, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, you cannot buy hard liquor from a place that is not a state-run liquor store in the state of Oregon. And they took over the entire medical marijuana.
So wait, you can't go into a Safeway and buy? Are you sure?
Yes. Shout out to my brother and late night road trips out to Cave Junction to hit the last liquor store that was open an hour later than everyone else. We would schmob out there and get some bottles.
You're drunk.
Hey, that was before we started getting down. But yeah, so you cannot get hard alcohol. You can get wine and beer, right? Spirits.
Yep.
But you cannot get anything hard unless it comes from an approved state
government vendor, basically.
They did the same thing with the weed up there, right? So in order to get a license to open a dispensary up there, you have to go through the OLCC.
Well, here in California, it's much more lax than that, right? It's all recreational. It
depends on how it's going to be set up, right?
Go to the store, pick it up, and be on your merry way, right?
Well, but the states have the ability to change the intricacies. They control the nuance, right? I forget, it was either Illinois or Minnesota. It might have been Illinois. They actually voted down to legalize weed because of the specifics of the bill that was involved. And actually, Nick Lachey
from NSYNC,
I think so, was like a lead investor in this, right? And he had like 20 million ready to invest in this kind of stuff. And they figured out who his business partners were, and essentially it did not pass because it seemed shady to Illinois residents.
Yeah.
Right. So, the nuances of these things will and should be controlled by the state because of state rights over federal.
Yeah.
But
it's called federalism.
All federal needs to do is just decriminalize it and get out of the way.
Get out of the way. Let each state do their thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in federalism. I think each state needs to be allowed to do its own thing. I think the Fed needs to be much smaller than it is. Obviously, with this bill, it's not going to pass the Senate. You're not going to get the 60 vote majority in the Senate because it's got to be a filibuster-proof majority for this bill. But yeah, this definitely states should do their thing. If you don't like it, that's the beauty of America, right? We were talking about this earlier before we were on the show. If you don't like something going on in your state, you do have the ability to move. I know it's much harder to do than it is to say, but you do, right? If I like the way things are going in Florida as compared to California, I have that right, which is, I'd love to, but it's just not going to happen. It's not in the cards for me right now.
What's keeping you here?
Family.
Yeah, that's the answer.
Family.
Everyone gives.
It's really family. I was raised here. Family's keeping me here. As we get older, maybe retirement happens. You know what I mean? We'll go to the same place as everybody else. But states need to be able to run their way. Like if Montana doesn't want to legalize it, but California does, by all means, Fed should step out of the way. There should not be a federal law for marijuana. That's my true belief. There's no, that's how alcohol. There's not much of a difference, right? And
well, I also think that
alcohol's more addicting.
Yeah, alcohol's also more socially acceptable, but because it was engineered to be that way.
Yeah,
I think if it was left up to the free market or society, I think weed would be much more popular than alcohol, just because of the inebriation qualities. Loss of your equilibrium. You're
much easier to get overly drunk than it is overly high.
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna eat. You're gonna not spend money on takeout, but you're going to raid your fridge and pass out on your couch. You're not gonna hurt anybody, right? But no, I think it also needs to have a look at how popular it is, right? Like it's called like common use. This happens in firearms all the time, right? With suppressors, for example.
Yeah.
If they can prove that it's a common use item and a majority of Americans own it, then it becomes a precedence for people to kind of say, hey, this is pretty common and popular amongst the country. We should look at, changing the laws or whatever. I'm pretty sure more than 25 states already have some version of either medical or recreational weed, right? So there is a case to be made.
And it shouldn't be up to the federal government to stop them from doing that.
If the federal government is telling 40 states out of 50 that they're still breaking the law and that people in your state can still go to, get in trouble federally.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have to say, you know what, this is kind of bullshit, right? Speaking of laws, we do have another graphic here, pick 5. We were going to talk about California laws a little bit, but we kind of wanted to link this in with a few things that we saw on the internet this week. We'll get into that in a little bit, but this is as of last week. We saw 10 bills that the state was going to vote on. One of them, AB 1993, there on the bottom, talks about essentially requiring proof of COVID-19 for all employees and independent contractors within the state. So this is something that they actually decided not to vote on. Last minute. They pulled it from, the docket or whatever to be able to actually be voted on. They state case numbers going down and, whatever measurement that they're using to, monitor COVID at this point, have gotten to a point where they don't necessarily think that they need AB 1993. So they struck it from what they're voting on. But there were 9 other COVID-related bills. The graphics up here, I can't actually read it from where I'm at, but you guys can pause it and go through this kind of stuff. We have verified that these are actual bills the state of California is putting up for a vote in the next 2 weeks. And a lot of people are just telling me, COVID's gone. We've got war. We've got Will Smith.
You want me to read it for you?
The smack around
I could
the
probably
world.
read them.
I don't really know if it's worth going into, but my point in
they're worth looking up, doing some research on yourself if you're interested in it.
If you live in California and you don't want this kind of shit to be imposed upon your kids and your family, look into this. This is the kind of stuff that's going to affect you a lot more than Bo Jiden talking about the State of the Union address or whatever. Like, this is stuff that's going to affect you if you're in the state, right? So look it up. It has to do with 12-year-olds and a couple of other things, all semi-related to COVID. So, the people that think that this is going away or we're not going to have to deal with this shit anymore, it's being written into law as we speak. So we kind of jumped the gun on that, actually. We wanted to talk about the Shanghai lockdowns.
Yeah, so according to Reuters, Shanghai is expanding its COVID lockdowns. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want anymore. It's, but what does that really mean? I guess it's due to some over a certain number of Omicron infections, right? What does that mean for our supply chains? Shanghai's big.
Is that what we're still on, by the way? Are we still on Omicron, or are we on
Omicron? Yeah, it's still on Omicron.
I
think they talked about a couple other variants or something like that. Nothing's really taken. It was Omicron was so virulent, or not virulent. Transmissible. So we've been on that for since right before Christmas. Everybody we knew got it. I didn't. I don't know why. I don't know how.
The winter of death.
I went around looking door handles and it still didn't happen. I don't get it. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's people that want it don't get it, right?
I went into the closest Kaiser and I was just licking door handles, and it's kissing old folks that had it. You know what I mean? It just didn't happen.
It's all that mask
wearing. It's not
wearing.
written in the cards for me.
It's all that mask wearing they're doing.
I saw a study the other day though that they're actually there's some people that they're finding that there's a big population of people that are actually already immune to it. It was a left-wing source too. I don't remember which one it is. I
what do you
really
mean?
wish I was.
Like people have transmitted it and they didn't know
There's
it?
people that haven't gotten COVID. Well, why haven't they gotten COVID yet? Right? Was there another cold somewhere in your life that may have supported the immunity through T cell and B cell immunities to this particular virus? Right. So I may get a cold one year that you'd never get. Yeah, right. And sure. They're starting to actually do some research into that, and they might be using some of that technology in creating future vaccines, future blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. But it was very weird that there's been, like, I've been in positions where I should have had it
totally
100 times over.
Yeah,
100 times over, right? And did I don't know what to tell you.
You mean like
I'm sorry.
In hospitals, inside of an elevator with a known COVID patient?
Yes, right at the very beginning of this with the Alpha variant, right? And right in front of me, lady coughing her brains out right in front of me, rolled right by me. Yeah. That one at a Kaiser facility.
I had a similar experience about a year ago.
The guys pushing her had the full suits on, the bunny suits, full masks, and I'm standing there with my backpack full of tools, like, what's going on?
But you gotta leave.
You gotta leave.
You had your mask on. You're fine.
No, this was before masks. This was when Fauci told us not to wear masks. They weren't needed.
Right.
That was his little lie of the day, whatever. So
yeah, it's been a wild ride. I don't think it's going away. So with this Shanghai stuff though, so I mean, obviously we're talking about China. I mean, they are like really gnarly on their policies and lockdowns.
They're really strict on their lockdowns. Yeah.
Obviously this is going to have some implications on the more stressed supply chain than it already is. But I saw actually a little blip the other day that was very dystopian to me. I read through the comments and everyone was like, "Oh, cool technology," but it was a little robot. It was a miniature, four-legged robot from Boston Dynamics. I've seen the videos before. They've been around for years. Boston Dynamics was going to try and do this four-legged animal for the military that they decided not to do. Anyway, it's a miniature. It's the size of like Harley maybe, and it's got a giant speaker on it, and it's trotting around the streets, screaming, in whatever language to
Probably Mandarin.
My assumption is Mandarin, but I'm not that privy on Shanghai and the dialect and all that kind of stuff.
Mandarin's the majority. Cantonese is lower class usually.
Oh, okay. Even in Shanghai, specifically?
It doesn't really matter. I think Mandarin's the more popular of the two.
This thing is trotting through the streets, screaming at people to get inside, and it's just a robot. There's no cars anywhere. There's like just a lone person filming it, right? And it's just like, I just don't like where this is going. Like, people have been complying now for 2 years, and are we over it yet, or are they going to stop? 15 days of slow the spread? Like, I don't know. I don't think compliance is necessarily working.
Dude, that was a long 15 days. Holy shit. 700 and something days?
Still going.
Yeah, that was a long 15 days. I'll tell you that.
So, it's like compliance does not necessarily equal freedom, guys. So maybe we should switch it up a little bit and figure out another solution.
Yeah, I mean, and if this should take us right into our next segment. I don't know how much food we get from China. I haven't looked that up. I haven't done any research into that. I work for a living. I don't have that much time, right? But I'm sure we get plenty of food from China. I'm sure we get plenty of resources from there. The average everyday things we're buying at the grocery stores and stuff like that. But food prices, next thing. All right. So this will have to do with supply chain issues. It has a lot to do with supply chain issues. Now, is it from China? Is it from Russia? Is it from Ukraine? Is it from, just not having enough people to work? Who knows, right? And this is according to NPR. Food prices going up at levels not seen in decades. Now, I read the report. It's just an NPR report. It's just blah, blah, blah. I'm not joking. It's not very important, right? It's just a hey, telling you how much the food prices have gone up. I think we got a picture on that one right there, picture 6. So if you read the bottom of picture 6, I think it says something about 4.5%, from 4.5% to 5.5% on there. That's a big difference, right? When you're living on a paycheck, like most Americans are. They're living, they're not at the poverty line. They may be right above it, but they're living paycheck to paycheck. And it says all food prices are now predicted to increase between 4.5 and 5.5%. The USDA's Economic Research Service explained in March report. That's kind of scary, right? Food's needed to survive. You can't survive without it. You can't survive without water, right? Obviously, the price of water, I haven't paid attention. I don't know if they're going up, but the prices of food are going up. Is that a supply chain crisis? Is that the war going on in Russia, Ukraine? I don't think it's the war part, right? I think that's just a scapegoat that the Biden administration keeps using for, the prices are going up here, the prices are going up here, the prices are going up here. It's because Putin's price hike, right? That's what they've been
Putin's
calling
price
it.
hike, that's what they've called it.
They've called it that for a month now, right?
Yeah.
Putin's price hike.
I'm seeing people replace the "I did that" sticker with Putin's body instead of Biden's body.
That's pretty stupid because it's not. Putin did have a lot to do with the us having to buy oil from somewhere else, which drove the price of oil up. But that didn't include the $1.50 it raised before Putin went into Russia.
But that's
Ukraine. Sorry, Ukraine.
That's the long game, though. And actually, speaking of that, again, I think I misspoke last time we were talking about how much wheat both Russia and Ukraine produce. I might have said 30% of our wheat. I meant the world.
Global wheat. Yeah.
Globally, right?
Yeah. We create our own wheat here
for a percentage
for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
But then when other countries are starving for wheat, guess what we do? We sell it to the highest bidder.
I mean, there are countries in the Middle East that 100% of their wheat comes from either Ukraine or Russia.
Correct.
So, I mean, those are the kind of individuals. I don't know what the population is of these countries, but like those are the kind of people that are going to be directly affected this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's the poorest in the world.
Now, are we going to try and supplement that somehow by giving up some of our strategic grain reserves? I know, I know China's been like really stocking up on grain and trying to get like, a lot of their essentials.
You can only stock up on it for so long before it rots.
Yeah, but I mean, again, same with the oil, right? Like, are we actively replacing this shit? Are we?
I'm sure there's a
rotating our stock?
I'm sure there's a rotation for it, right?
I would hope so.
Oil in a barrel doesn't go bad like gas in a barrel does, right? It's not refined. It's crude. Crude oil
so it has a longer shelf life.
A much longer shelf life, right?
I mean,
think about it. Yeah, it's exactly it's unrefined, nice. Baby.
Thank you, Mr.
But it has been. Think about it. It's been sitting in the earth as it sits in a barrel for its entire life, right? Since the
it's inside
dinosaurs,
of a dinosaur.
Right? Yeah,
it's inside of a dinosaur.
It's the petroleum from the dinosaur bodies, yeah. But I don't know.
I read somewhere actually that it's going to be upwards of $450 extra a month for families.
That's correct.
Like $5,400
a year.
Break that down to 12 months. Correct. I mean, $450 is no small chunk of change.
Now, I don't know if they added gas prices in there or was that just food prices. I thought it was just everyday goods and services that normal people, you'd use for like whether it's grocery store bills, stuff like that, paper towels, toilet paper, stuff like that. It has been raising drastically, right? The price of meat's gone up drastically. Like beef has gone up 16% or something like that. It's these kind of things that should we have been already prepping? Should we have been, or should we now start prepping? Because I noticed that I've got my food supply, right? I did a long time ago. I'm not a tinfoil hat, kind of person. I don't believe in conspiracies and stuff like that, but I do believe in natural disasters. And when one strikes, I'd like to be prepared, right? So I've done my homework on that.
Doesn't always have to be like an apocalyptic end of the world.
But the price has doubled on preparing food now.
Yeah,
prepared food, right? It's gone up because the cost to make those MREs or the freeze dried foods is changed, right? Because supply chains.
There's also new companies that are innovating in the space. Some of those companies are asking a premium because of the processes that they use have changed and gotten better. So like Mountain House, for example, does come at a premium because of the way they go about freeze drying their food. So you can still find some deals out there, but it's like shelf life is a big thing for me.
Shelf life,
right?
yeah.
Because if I buy something and something's going to last 3 months, then now I have to remember to rotate it into my normal food that my kids and my wife are consuming or cooking, right? Like if you can get something that has a super long shelf life, like
I think I did
25 years,
I did 25 year on.
Now you're talking about literally like kind of a set it and forget it type of a thing, right? But I mean, as Bo Jiden said, literally it's going to get real. I think that's a big disconnect for a lot of people. It hasn't gotten personal yet, right?
Not yet.
You said before, a majority of Americans have not necessarily had to fret over where their children's next meal is going to come, right? And I get it. I know there's a lot of people out there struggling. When my mom was a single mom raising us 3, I'm sure she stressed and was concerned about where the next meal was going to come. But there's a lot of safety nets built into that kind of stuff that are starting to see the strain now, right?
Yeah.
Like food banks, for example, right? We're seeing what they used to call bread lines back in the day, but we're seeing lines from these food
Second Harvest.
These food, I forget, I'm drawing a blank on the goddamn name, but it's these places people can go for a hot meal.
Yeah, Second Harvest. There's a Second Harvest right off of
Oh, so that's the
right
name.
in San
That's
Jose.
the name of
Yeah,
the
Second
business, but
Harvest
still
Food
a
something
soup
or
kitchen
another.
whatever
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to call it, right? Okay. So like these are starting to be strained. Like if you're going to attempt to rely on any form of federal or local government for assistance when heaven forbid something actually does happen, you're going to be SOL and you're going to be in really bad situation, right? So I know there's like a negative stigma or whatever around prepping, and you automatically like
That's so weird to me. Wouldn't you want to be prepared? Have we had it so good for so long that people think you don't need it?
yes.
That is so crazy. That's so strange to me. That's crazy. That is so crazy that people that are preppers. Now, I'm not talking about the guy that buries a Connex in his backyard and, that kind of prepper. I'm talking about the basic necessities, food, water, shelter, right? That people will look at you as you're one of them. Oh, you're one of them? Well, you never know, right?
It's a mindset for me. It's not necessarily about what you have, where, or how much of it. It's it's a mindset for me, right? Like something as simple as going outside in flip-flops. If I need to think about what I'm going to be doing when I go outside in my garage, for example, if I throw some flip-flops on, I probably shouldn't be getting on a ladder or moving my motorcycle.
I do that barefoot. I don't care.
You know what I mean, though? It's like you want some version of protection, and you try and like plot out what you're going to need. It's like PPE, right? Gloves, glasses, ear protection, that kind of stuff. But like,
not for this guy. I try to hurt myself every time I can. Yeah, why not?
Hopefully you have some.
See what happens.
Hopefully you have some food that you're sitting on that you can feed yourself and hand up, right?
As long as I got the water supply too, right?
Well, so I mean, I did want to talk just a little bit about the prepping stuff here, and again, like you can ask my wife. I've been prepping for a long time now. Yeah, I get it. Wrap it up. What are we sitting at? 57.
57 minutes.
Yeah, we're good, man. We're good. I like that hour. He just laid it down on me. Okay. So we have, I just wanted to run over just real quick.
Emotional damage.
On the,
Emotional damage.
yeah, you can see that I'm starting to be damaged a little bit emotionally, right? No. So
I see it in your face.
We had just the rules of three. Okay, I've been talking about the rules of three for a long time, and actually the rules of three have kind of like morphed a little bit. So I just want to give the newest version of the rules of three real quick. Okay, so you have 3 seconds with the wrong kind of attitude, and that goes back to mindset, right? You need to be in the mindset of like, we're gonna get through this. I'm prepared enough to be able to provide for my family. Once you start like kind of having to worry about not being prepared, then the stress levels come up. You don't get to focus on the task at hand, etc. So it's all about mindset. 3 seconds in the wrong attitude could be detrimental. That could be death. 3 minutes without air. Obviously, if you don't get air in your body for 3 minutes, you die, right? So 3 hours without shelter. Now, shelter can be as simple as just the clothes that you have on your back, right? Like if I know it's snowing outside, I should probably grab my jacket, right? Exposure to extreme weather conditions, 3 hours, frostbite, you're good, right? So 3 days without water, that one's a pretty well-known one, and 3 weeks without food. So
I thought the water thing was a little less than 3 days.
That's about 3 days.
Is it 3 days?
You start pulling some of the water out of like your muscles, and you start like getting.
I know food you can go
and
quite a bit of time without actual sustenance food, but the water's the most.
These are on average. I mean, obviously, it depends on like who you are as a person, what you're used to, right? Like that. There's that whole thing where if you're hungry at the end of the night and you've already had dinner, you shouldn't eat because you're giving into that instant gratification, instant satisfaction trigger in your brain.
Yeah.
And people actually like attempt to get themselves set up for not being able to eat 3 meals a day, and they do that. They like they postpone that instant gratification trigger in your brain to like kind of set you up for that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, I mean that's the basics, guys. I mean, you have your vehicle, you have your house, and you have your person. Again, I talked about the clothes that you're wearing on your back. I think everyone should have a knife on them. I think everyone should have a way to see in the dark, a flashlight.
I just used my sharp wit.
You're going to run into a piece of wood that you're not going to be able to chop down with that. But that's basic stuff. Obviously your keys, car keys, wallet, cell phone, all that stuff, right? Then you have your vehicle. I like to have a backpack with me, so I can actually take the backpack from my vehicle into my house, and that kind of covers a lot of the like medical stuff and all that crap that we're not getting into. Again, a lot of people cover this stuff.
You know, it's crazy. Some of the people that may watch this, I don't know, think that you are one of those crazy
Preppers.
nutbag
Yeah.
preppers.
Yeah.
That is insane to me. And that you're just saying, this is basics. Look, we're not digging a hole in the backyard, putting a bomb shelter in. We're making sure you have food.
Yeah.
You have water, you have medical supplies, you have the necessities that are needed just to survive, right? Just in case. Now, we're not talking about, government takeover. We're not talking about, COVID lockdowns. We're just talking about could be a natural disaster, flooding.
Look what happened to Katrina.
Anything, right?
Look what
Yeah.
happened in Katrina.
And if you
didn't
were
have-
prepared and you had a go bag, you might be in a better situation than you were. But I don't know if people are actually here, especially here in California, other than the wildfire, people that have dealt with wildfires, right?
And
I don't know if they're going to listen to that and say, okay, that sounds logical, because they just don't care. They don't see that because they've never had to see it, right? So
I think there's tiers to it, right? Like you can get really into it. I find it very interesting. I like being outdoors. I like the field craft side of things. I like, having tools
you
to
said you like to feel things.
Fieldcraft. Big shout out to Fieldcraft Survival. I love you, Mike Glover. But like if we were to put all that other BS aside, right? Everything in the vehicle, medical, all that kind of crap, because then there's training, etc. Just food and water. Okay. People will, exactly what you said. People will, look at me like I have lobsters crawling out of my nose when I tell them I have 6 months worth of freeze-dried food.
That's so crazy.
That will last for 25 years, and it's enough for my family of 4.
When I went and bought my 25-year shelf life food, I was like, am I crazy? Am I weird? I bought it and I was like, no, it's a peace of mind that I didn't have before, right? And I know we have it easy. We can go to Safeway, we can go to Walmart, we can go wherever we want and grab a steak. You can go grab this. But what if you can't? You know what I mean? What if you can't?
Look, we got a very small taste of this right when COVID started. I was working in San Francisco. I was trying to find very specific items for my wife, for my mother-in-law, because they were baking, because everyone was stuck at home. They didn't know what the fuck to do. So everyone started baking again. And there were certain things that were out no matter where I went, no matter what store I went to, certain things were done. So, we got just a small taste of what that's like. And if it goes any further than that, I just, all I can do is kind of tell you what I'm doing. So
yeah, I agree. I think if you think somebody that preps is kind of one of those nutmeg, right winger nutbags, I think you've got it wrong. I think everybody should have something prepared just in case, especially if you have kids. Don't even think about yourself. Think about your kids. At that point, be prepared. You don't know. Tomorrow is not promised to you. Tomorrow is going to be different. That's all I got on that subject. You want to finish off with the
Do
little...
you guys remember doing that in elementary?
What's that? Oh, the...
earthquake prepping.
Yeah. Duck under your desk.
grab your
No,
ankles
no,
and kiss your ass goodbye.
Get a
Run out to the...
everyone gets a backpack. And
We didn't
up
get
with dry
that.
food, canned food, just in case something happens at the school.
No,
We didn't get that. Yeah.
no, we
okay.
didn't do that.
So
No, I mean-
it was
not
kind
that
of
I
like prepping
remember.
at school. That's what we did in
Hey, man.
elementary.
We used to teach children how to become proficient with firearms in public schools back in the 50s. So we've slid a long way from that. But yeah, just the basics: food and water. If you're going to store water, have a way to purify it, right? If that's a water filter, I have a Grail.
Life
I think
straw.
that's great.
Life
Life
straw.
straws are like the cheaper ways to go about it. Berkey.
I can always do my... I got a 400-gallon koi pond in the backyard. I don't care about the koi as much as I do my own life. So if I need to, I'll life straw right out of that.
Well, I
bad
mean,
boy.
even if
Sushi.
it's something,
and I'll
that's
eat
like-
some sushi, bony sushi.
Yeah,
I
there you
don't
go.
care.
Now you got the food and the water, right? But just have a way to purify
Oh, have you,
it. Don't
you guys
drink
know
nasty
the,
water.
You guys ever heard the joke about best way to cook carp? Which is koi. Koi is carp, right? Best way to cook carp, you preheat the oven to 320, you put it on a piece of cardboard, stick it in the oven for about an hour, pull it out, throw the fish away, and eat the cardboard.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, you just might as well just go to the toilet and skip a couple seconds.
Didn't. Yeah. There you go.
All right. Well, that's.
I think we can finish this off with a stupid, funny meme that we always throw up memes on here for you guys.
We have one more here.
We have one more. It's a funny tax meme. Picture number 7 right here. And we'll go ahead and read that off for you. It says, printing money doesn't cause inflation, for anybody that's listening on Spotify or anything like that.
That's an NPC saying that, by the way.
Yeah. non-playable character. And then there's a playable character saying, then why not end taxation and just print all the money the government needs?
And then
Does that not make sense for people that say that?
And then NPC gets mad.
You know, and then there's a lot of people that say, you know, inflation is good. Inflation is good. Well, maybe 2 to 3%. 3% on the high end. 2%, that's normal. That's going to happen, right? There's nothing you could do about that. The government's screwed up, right? It's going to happen. 7-8% at what we're at right now is beyond.
Yeah, that's if you
fixing.
believe the numbers.
That is beyond fixing, right?
I think we're around like 14 or 15%.
And that, you know, the answer to why don't they print more money to get rid of taxation is because it makes the dollar worth less.
Well, the illusion disappears too.
The illusion correct. The illusion of
start asking
rarity,
why they're
right?
paying
And it's the
taxes.
same as cryptocurrency, you know? Cryptocurrency is, they're expensive because of the rarity. They're not expensive because they're abundant.
Because there's a limited supply.
There's a limited supply, and that's it, right? Once it's done, it's done. That's the supply, and then the price fluctuates according to its rarity, right? And that's the same with a dollar, whatever. We can get into that on another episode. Don't care.
We have a lot of material for what is a hard asset and what actually is intrinsic in value.
We can go hard on you guys for taxes.
We've been
if you
teasing
ever
that a
want
little
to.
bit. People that know me know that I really enjoy precious metals and that kind of store of value. So I guess back to mindset, just to end this thing, back to mindset. We, you know, instead of measuring your wealth in dollars, start measuring your wealth in ounces. Maybe it's ounces in a precious metal
Pot.
you have. Maybe it's ounces in weed once it becomes legal. Maybe it's ounces of water.
Yeah.
Maybe it's calories, right?
Could be.
I don't know. That's my mindset. I'm trying to change some things that I'm doing in my personal life with my mindset. I'm also trying to change some things that I do with my diet and getting back into the exercise.
That's good to hear. And I enjoy that. You know, I've been doing a diet for a little bit. I love it. Working great for me. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is because I don't like you guys that much. But
That's right.
Vegan.
I'm not vegan. I eat more meat than anybody here.
Oh.
Man, meat.
That's a good way.
Yeah.
That's a good way to segue right there.
But all right, you guys, let's finish this off. I'd like to say bye to everybody. Thank you for watching. If you watched the whole thing, if you didn't, well, screw you. You should watch the end of it.
Thank you for our listeners too.
Yeah,
We've made
yeah.
it easier.
Like, subscribe, do all that stupid shit I always tell you to do. Do me a favor. Stay healthy. Get out. Exercise. Get off the couch. I'm going to tell you guys this every episode. I'm just going to keep trying to push this into your brain. Get off the couch. Get up. Exercise. Even if it's a 15-minute walk a day. Do something different than you did yesterday. Eat something different than you did yesterday. Eat something healthier than you did yesterday. You'll feel better. Life will be better. I promise you that. I promise you that. From firsthand knowledge, I promise you that. Take care of your kids. Love your wife or husband or whatever they call the other situations. I don't know.
Change has to start from within.
So
no one's going to get you off your ass and
get
do
up
it yourself. No one's going to
exactly.
save you.
Get up, do something different than you did yesterday. And I don't mean go rob a bank. That's. I guess it's different than what you did yesterday, right? You didn't rob a bank. Don't do that. Just get up, do something. Thank you guys for joining the show. We'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully something doesn't pop up tonight to be a distraction for next week because we'd like to be the first ones to talk about it, not the last ones to talk about it. So
I'm really looking for these episodes to start writing themselves. So let's just keep it going with the world. Thank you everyone for listening. And this has been another episode of the Unrefined.
say bye to Mr. Peabody as well. Don't forget.
Quiet you.
Bye guys.
Later, guys.